96.9 FM. Fresh news, smart talk, all day. The views and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the position of the management and staff of Guardian Network.
Good morning and welcome to Guardian Radio AM. Today is Monday, October 30th. And it's a little after 11 o'clock in the morning. Once again, this is C.A. Newry and I shall be your host for the day. As we continue a conversation with Thane, everything escaped me, Thane Campbell, Dr. Thane Campbell. Dr. Thane Campbell is actually a Bahamian who is based in the United Kingdom. He has ventured to the Bahamas now to speak to our Prime Minister. He's speaking to some international people about this new concept about empowering, in this case, Bahamians, giving Bahamians an opportunity to invest in themselves. And I wanted him to go in detail about this, right? Because the company, he's like a dean of students of a school, and I'm going to go in detail about his narrative. But this is Deep Science Ventures, which is basically to empower Bahamians in a global climate innovation. But it's more than just that, right? And I wanted to go in detail and press for information on how we as Bahamians can benefit from this concept. But without further ado, I want to know about Dr. Thane Campbell, how he ended up being based out of London, England. Where part of the United Kingdom you are?
Yeah, so now I'm in Scotland.
In Scotland, Scotland. I have friends in Scotland. But anyway, let's go back, Dr. Campbell. Who are you? First of all, I want to know your narrative of your family. I want to know your narrative of your schooling here in the Bahamas. And then transitioning into how you're based in United Kingdom. So I want to know that first, and then I want to get into your career path and what is this deep science ventures that you're doing.
Great, thanks for having me, CA. So my family, we go back to Cat Island, the Campbells. So my grandfather was James Campbell, and he's actually one of the role models for me, and sort of ties into everything else we're going to say, because this man, he when he was quite young, lost both of his parents and took to tomato farming to put his younger brother and sister through school. And so from there, he became a monitor at different schools across the islands, not just in Cat Island. He became the commissioner of Cat Island. He did a correspondence course. He actually got an MBA from the United Kingdom. So this man who started with agriculture, went into education, but went all around to different places to see how they do it, and wound up working with government and actually helping to build up our nation. He's a huge part of this story. But also, of course, my parents. And so my father is another role model, Dr. Winston Campbell, medical doctor now. And he actually set up, ear, nose, and throat medicine, field of medicine in this country. So I had huge respect for him growing up, and I always saw him as a kind of, there's like an antagonism, how you, in a kind of friendly way, where I saw what he did, and I was, okay, I see what you do. I'm going to try to do something as well. Mm-hmm. And he was an inspiration. And then my mom is working at the Bahamas Maritime Authority now in London, so shipping. But my mom was always my biggest cheerleader and one of the voices encouraging me and speaking things over me, like our mothers and grandmothers do here with faith and saying, you will be the head and not the tail and all these things. So I had good role models. My broader family as well, my aunts and uncles, who are just great people who have brought a lot to my story even before school.
Okay, now we establish who you are, and especially being invested in the Bahamas and bringing your idea and your concept to the Bahamas. How did you get to the United Kingdom?
Right. So I went to school here. I was here for a good little while, and then I went to the United Kingdom when I was 11. So I went to boarding school in a small little place called Goudhurst in Kent, and and that was what it was. It wasn't that hard for me because Mummy came with me. My brother was there the year before me, so things were sort of there was a beachhead. It wasn't just like all new stuff all the time. And I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed, what I was doing in school, and I'm one of these people that, I could focus from a young age. So I just get stuck right into what I was doing and thinking about. My homework, sciences were always really interesting to me. I remember even in the Bahamas, like my dad bringing home this book, which had pictures of all this cell biology, of these colorful blobs and things that were like, eating each other and throwing things out, and it was a whole universe of stuff like what I would see almost in the movies, like Star Wars. And so that always captivated me, this kind of tiny cellular world inside of all of us. And I got to see more and more of it as I went through school. So school was a really great place where I learned to stretch myself as well. So towards the end of my time in that boarding school, Bethany School in Kent, I was doing A-levels, and we usually do 3 A-levels, but my biology teacher, I was going to drop biology and do physics, chemistry, and math. But my biology teacher, Mrs. Gale, said to me, you really got to take biology. I said, well, I've made my decision for the 3 I'm going to take. She said, what if you take a 4th A-level? And I was like, this is how I'm saying, I would always sort of, my dad and other people, I would think about how am I going to do something. I thought, okay, a 4th A level, that would be
different.
That would be different, So I tried it and it worked out. And I thank her for that steer because biology became really important for my next steps at university. So when I was at university, I took a degree in medical sciences at the University of Edinburgh, and that was my undergraduate. So if I didn't have that biology, maybe I would have gotten in, but it was definitely a good preparation. And actually, when I was applying to university, I still thought I wanted to do medicine, like my dad. And so I sent out a bunch of medicine applications, and the university was the only one that wrote back to me and said, you can't do medicine here, but we want to offer you a place in medical sciences. And when I read about it, what that degree was, and then all these things came back to me of like, the books and the images that my dad, he also told me about DNA. So as a student, I would go around and I'd ask my friends and cousins. Some of my cousins still tell the story of how I'd ask them, you know what DNA stands for? You know about DNA? And say, I know what DNA is. I'd say, what does it stand for? Oh, I don't know. And I'd tell them deoxyribonucleic acid. And this little kid, and it's because my dad had explained these principles to me. From that time. So even at university, then the University of Edinburgh, not taking me for medicine, but offering me medical sciences, all this stuff was sort of activated then. And I was like, this would be a really cool degree for me to take. And I just thank God that of the places that I applied to, sometimes it looks like a door is closed, something else opens, and it turns out to be a key part of your future.
Now you have a PhD. What is your PhD degree in?
Yeah, so I hold a PhD in optical medical imaging and immunology, which is a long way of saying medical imaging. So when you go to the hospital, doctors need ways of getting pictures out of you to say what's going wrong, what's going on, and are you getting better? We need to see all of that happening to make key decisions in clinics to help patients fully recover and stay healthy. And so my PhD was in a kind of special configuration. Usually you go to university, you work with one university, one department. But the venture science doctor that we talk about later is not like that. You work with many. And I actually had that even during my PhD before we got all the way down this road. So in my PhD, I worked with the University of Edinburgh, Bath University, also that's in England, and Heriot-Watt University, which is also in Scotland. And those 3 universities were actually working with a big microchips and electronics company called ST Microelectronics and a big pharma company called GlaxoSmithKline. So we had this kind of super group of chemists and biologists, physicists, engineers, machine learning people, all working together in this kind of hive of lots of different scientists, ideas bouncing off each other, and thinking about what are the key problems to develop our technology. Because the mission of this group was to diagnose lung disease. So there's a whole host of lung diseases that when you see the patient come in, you can't tell which disease it is. There's about 12 of them. And you get samples and information back from labs, but you still can't tell. So what do doctors do? And they're actually giving a combination of antiviral medication, antibiotics, things for the immune response, all these different things in like a cocktail, just to try and hit the right spot, and it doesn't work. And so people are dying when we can't make those diagnoses. And so our group, these 3 universities and 2 big companies, made a new device, and it's a optic fiber microscope. So it's a thin fiber that can go into your lung, down your mouth, down your throat, all the way into your lung, to the ends of the lung, which is where all the action is. So we've had things like bronchoendoscopes before, but they don't go far enough, and they don't give you microscopic imaging. So our fiber does. It goes into the ends of the lung, and it acts as a microscope there. And it's a microscope that shows you what cells are doing. It also does chemical sensing, and it allows you to suck things out and put things in, like paints and dyes that we can use to see all the different cells.
Okay, so you're now as a dean of students at a school.
Right.
What school is that, and what are you the dean of students for? So we can now move into this deep science ventures.
Sure.
And that's why we're going to bring in Aaron Green so we can ask several of these questions. But go ahead, give that narrative now.
Yeah, so I'm the dean at Deep Science Ventures, where I founded our college.
So the school is do that again. Sorry, I'm sorry.
So Deep Science Ventures is an investor and a venture creator. And so we build companies and we back them. And we build science companies. And because we're so invested in the process with founders, we really understand how to teach the process of venture creation. How do you build game-changing global science company? So we've built 39 of these companies. Some of them are backed by Elon Musk. They've won the X Prize. And some are backed by Bill Gates through his venture arm, Breakthrough Energy Ventures. And so we had a process. We realized this works. And then it was a question of how do we scale it? And I came back around to DSV. I'd actually interacted with them during my PhD, where I had an invention. So I saw where we could get a really key technology built, but I couldn't get it out of the university. And at the same time, I had interned with Deep Science Ventures who get this stuff into the world all the time. So their model was perfect for sort of global challenge-led innovation. And I came back around to them and I said, guys, I remember some of the stuff we were talking about when I was there, and how your model works and all the great, scientists who wanted to build businesses. What if we deliver this as a PhD program? And that's how the college started building out. When I wrote back to the team and I said, hey, I've had this idea.
Recently, you've met with Prime Minister Davis.
Right.
Philip Davis, right? And you were engaging him about the opportunities for Bahamians. What is that opportunity, and what type of conversation we were having with him?
Yeah, so I work with the Office of the Prime Minister. So I work most closely with Mrs. Rochelle Newbold, Mrs. Larissa Cartwright. And so I reached out to them down the line when we had established the college and we actually had some things going. And I realized this is an opportunity for back home. Because again, when I did my PhD, people would say, oh, that's good. Maybe you set up like a biology lab back home. And I'm like, you can't just set these things up like coffee shops, like it takes a lot. And we're seeing that now with UB. But I could bring this program back because the first year is virtual, so you can do it online. And when we bring you together in that year, we pay for travel. And the second and third year, you go into universities around the world, but we pay for travel. So it fits. And actually, there are other ways that we designed it to fit specifically for diverse people and Bahamians. So we talked to the office of the PM about what would work here. Is this a good fit for Bahamians? And what are some of the areas strategically that we need to go after as a country? Because as I said, Deep Science Ventures is climate, agriculture, computation, and pharmaceuticals. And we still offer that through the Venture Science Doctorate. But for here, OPM said, agriculture, clean energy, climate resilience, these are some of the big things for us. So we thought about that together. And I was thrilled when I found out that Prime Minister Philip Davis was really excited about what this could do for young people who had aspirations in science and in business. So a whole lot of our young people, because we got great business people here as well. And he really saw that this could help to shape the narrative of the Bahamas. Like, we've had issues before with our talent, always having to leave the country to become science innovators. And he actually says this in the press release. We got a quote from him, which is on the Office of the Prime Minister's website. But he talks about how the Venture Science Doctorate is our opportunity to reimagine the Bahamian story together. And he invites Bahamians around the world, in our diaspora and here, to apply and to join in to build up the economy with him.
So any minute now, Aaron's going to jump in. But I'm thinking now, who is this space geared towards? Is it geared towards students who are studying for their PhD? Is it geared towards business and management students? Is it geared towards future scientists, biology students? I hear you mention agriculture. I hear the Prime Minister is pushing that, and in terms of climate change. But I want to know who should be interested in this whole concept.
Great. No, that's the key question. It's like, in the Bahamas, our innovators are not just the people at university. We've got great people in the business space as well as in university. And so it's really broad. It's people who have the traits that we're looking for. So people who are resilient. And, the first thing that you suggest as an invention doesn't work out for some reason, you can keep rolling. It's people who are coachable. So you've got all these different things to learn. You got to work with us and take feedback and learn about science, learn about business. It's people who are creative and can combine existing ideas, but also go beyond that and create like truly new concepts in clean energy, in agriculture. People who are logical, so they're going to step through and explore all the options. They're not just going to go with the first thing they're excited about. Mm-hmm. So it's all of those set traits.
I also imagine we're looking for people who are logical, but the people who that understand logic, understand systems, understand structures, but also can sort of step outside of that thinking, outside of the box, right? And imagine beyond what people consider logical, right? To explore whether strategies exist beyond what we have considered. And it's that balance of thinking. I'm thinking we also need people who understand business and I can say the merchant imagination and how ideas are driven into the commercial space, but are also prepared to buck that. So we're looking at entrepreneurs, people who have been able to carve a niche in a space where we thought there was no niche available, right? And so that's not necessarily the person with the degree, but I'm also thinking that we're looking for people who are, that you could tell they're ripe with ideas, they just don't have a system to plug into.
Yeah, it's that exactly, and you're hitting on the key things, because it's also, we specifically measure what we call magnetism. So how do you tell stories? Are you persuasive? Are you empathetic? Like, how do you bring people along with you? And that, as you're saying, very often leads to a different kind of logical person who maybe today is tending towards business because they can network, they can bring people along, they can close deals. And they don't necessarily think of themselves as somebody doing a doctorate, a venture science doctorate.
So Deep Science Ventures, right? Is this free for Bahamians, or is there a big charge that I'm interested, I want to take part in this? What's the cost for these things?
It is free.
Which you mean it's free?
See, because a doctorate costs your whole life.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know people with doctorates. A doctorate costs your whole life, buddy.
It does. It does. That's one of the problems we wanted to solve, right? And so people today in the States or whatever, you finish your PhD and you have debt. I mean, you have a lot of debt. Like, it can really be big figures. And we realized that, that wouldn't cut it here because it would be such a small number of people who could afford to be rolling out the big bucks to do that. So we reached out to some funders, some global investors in the first instance, including the United Kingdom government.
Is that UK Innovate or in the organization Innovate UK?
Yeah, and they were great, and they do a lot of different programs, and they realized how the people that we're training, combining science and business, could boost everything that they're doing, and as it could do here in the Bahamas. So it's definitely that combination, and we wanted to make it something that everybody could do if they wanted to, and if they were willing to apply themselves. And so we didn't want finances to be a barrier.
How long is this program?
So it's a 3-year program. So in year 1, you come in with us at Deep Science Ventures College, and you are learning from our playbook. So we've built up things that we know work from the 39 companies we've already built. And so in year 1, I mean, you could run through it, and if you applied and we brought you into the program, then you might spend the first year thinking about what the Bahamas really needs in, let's say, the clean energy space. And you might look at a whole raft of things like, what are we doing in solar? What are we doing in all kinds of different areas? And you might land on the fact that at the same time as clean energy, we have pollution, right, to deal with. And so you might say, okay, my invention is going to be, I'm going to engineer bacteria, and they're going to process pollutants like fertilizers, which spill off in different places and cause problems. And so that would also touch on our agriculture sector, but the bacteria could process the fertilizer, clean up the space, and also produce green hydrogen. And then in years 2 and 3, you would take that concept, you've looked at a whole raft of applications and picked a top one. It's got intersections at agriculture, clean energy, and you're cleaning up the environment. Then you could build that technology. So you could join a synthetic biolab in year 2, let's say at Cornell University, where we're speaking to people who work on this kind of stuff. And you could also be working with William Gustave at UB, who's also looking into synthetic biology and processing the pollutants in our environment, right? So now you're building on a team around you that you're building the technology with. In year 3, once you've completed that, we help you to bring in co-founders and we invest.
Here's another example that just popped in my head, right? And it's a dilemma for the Bahamas in particular. We've learned recently that sunscreen, commercial skincare, sunblock, sunscreen, is detrimental to the health of coral, right?
Right.
So the Bahamas is in a particular situation where we're inviting millions of people to come here around the world, people from cold climates who will need to wear sunscreen when they come to enjoy our waters. But that means that when they go into the waters, they actually are damaging, but the sunscreen is damaging the coral, right? So as a Bahamian, I'm looking for a Bahamian who's been thinking about it, and I'm thinking, the question is, how do we protect the coral from the sunscreen? And we inviting the people to come, like, how do we ensure that the coral exists for the people who we invite to come see it, even though it's the people we inviting to come see it who are destroying the corals through their sunscreen? So now I'm thinking of ideas. Can I create a product that once I put it in the ocean, like where I have a big gathering of people,
sure.
that it will absorb the chemicals in the sunscreen that are detrimental, cause them to congeal in a ball, and so then I could come in the water and just look for the blobs of contaminant that have been captured by this little chemical that I've created,
I
right?
love it.
And
I
then
love
I
it.
take that idea and I say, hold on, but the Bahamas have tons of pools as well, and I want to reduce the risk of any type of contamination, having hundreds of people in the pool on a regular basis at the hotels. So can I then sort of modify this product for not just ocean use, but for pool and chlorine use as right?
This is what we're talking about. Aaron, you need to come on to.
No. I finished with schooling.
You need to do that.
No,
Let's
but
see
this
what
is
else.
so key because you're hitting on so many things. And one of the big things you hit on is tourism, right? Which is our industry, right? And so what I'm really excited about is how tourism sets us up for a whole host of other markets to be a global leader. Like we're bringing millions of people here from around the world. They're going to our hotels. They're eating, Bahamian cuisine and our food. Who's growing the food? It's not the Bahamas. We spend over $1 billion a year in food imports. And so tourism is actually bringing the world to our doorstep. We could be doing business. It's bringing investors, global investors. So we've got hundreds of millions of dollars on offer from World Development Bank, International Monetary Fund, and other places, and global philanthropies, right? And how do we compete for that as a country? We need to build up our businesses. We need more businesses, more science innovators who can make the case. Then OPM and the Prime Minister can go out and say, look, we have these strengths as a nation. We should get those development funds to build up our industries.
I think we have a caller here, but after this call, engage you. I want to know, what do the selected person receive at the end of 3 years? What is the
What does a
culmination?
doctorate look like?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or is it a doctorate, or what is it, the end
It
end
is.
game?
It's fully accredited. It's a PhD, but let's go.
Okay. Producer Pratt, your first caller for me, please. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
A pleasant good morning, Mr. Newry, and your guest.
Good morning.
Morning.
You know, when I listen, we talk about food in the Bahamas. I just heard your doctor friend mention the amount of money we spend importing food into the Bahamas. When the Bahamas used to be a farming doggone country. And from what I gather, it seems as if that for some reason we don't encourage farming. I listen sometimes to even the gentleman there when we talk about chemistry and chemicals. From I was growing up, there's something we used to call bush medicine.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get sick, the first thing everybody will go get some Cersei.
Mm-hmm.
Go get some love vine. Go get some of this. Some soursop leaf with some guava leaf, some avocado leaf, or something like that. Boil them, make tea with some neem or some moringa. We keep naming these things, but I wonder, with all the scientists and doctors and everything that send us to pharmacies to get this pill and to get the next pill, I realize that the pills come from either the tree root, the tree bark, the tree leaves, or the fruit from the trees. Nothing comes from outer space. When they went into outer space, they brought back from the moon with a rock. Not a plant, not an apple, not a jujule, nothing. But nobody in the Bahamas seemed to study these things, or I don't know, what is there in the Cersei that our grandparents would say, take Cersei for the cold?
I got you, Sparky. I can tell you right away, Cersei is a part of the bittermelon family, Corella. In Asia, the people in Asia have been taking that plant for thousands and thousands, well, I say thousands of years, as an anti-cancer agent. Cersei in the yellow pod, that's just a hybridization, right? It's just a sort of the evolution. That's how the plant presents itself. Or it's a part of that family and has those same properties. And that, right, that's how they knew. Now, last week, when Dr. Campbell was on, I mentioned a book called DNA and the Origins of Knowledge, right? About an ethnobiologist that did work with shamans and how they image disease in sick patients. I'm not saying that that's what our grandparents did. They relied on traditional knowledge passed down through generations. I want to say this quickly, Sparky. I know, take my oath to the Billy Goat, that Viagra is a product derived from Bahamian bush medicine and a Bahamian concoction. Take my oath to the Billy Goat. I know that, right, with my heart. And so the key is that we have not had the systems to be able to extract and realize the maximum value from the things that we've had in front of us to be able to extract that value at the commercial level. We've been able to extract that at the personal and community level, but not at a commercial level. Now, the next thing just before I go is this, Sparky. You are old enough to know that the merchant class and the merchant imagination controls everything in this town. And so only what is expedient to the merchant class will survive. We're now having a conversation about a mechanism that exists that will enable the average Bahamian to take that indigenous knowledge, to take that family knowledge, to take that community knowledge and commercialize it for our benefit, the Bahamas, and the world's benefit.
Yeah, and I heard the music talking. We just need to get more information on this on how Bahamians can get in contact, be engaged, take advantage of these opportunities. We're going to take this quick break and call, if you wish, you could call back to engage Dr. Theen Campbell on this concept and just to ask some more information on what's happening. Anyway, Guardian Radio with AM with CA Newry. That's Aaron Green just speaking just now. Dr. Theen Campbell is here with me. We'll be right back.
Just sign in and have a seat, please. They'll call you in for your x-ray shortly.
That's why they call it a waiting room. You won't have that problem at 4th Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor. We never schedule multiple appointments, so you'll be in and out in no time. And if your initial screening reveals a concern, our radiologist can conduct an alternative screening right then and there. Call 328-8157 to schedule an appointment at 4th Terrace Diagnostic Center or Imaging at Grosvenor today.
Boy, why you look so mashed up like clothes at the washer?
No, boy, just a hard day, boy.
Hard day? What happened? The breakfast lady ran out of tuna and gritty.
We need to start joking about everything, you know. This serious, boy. This real serious, boy.
Boy, what's serious? Tell me.
All right, well, today, boss gave us, boy, one big contract. And nobody else get a chance and nobody say nothing.
Boy, you know that ain't right. You know government contracts ain't supposed to go that way.
Yeah, but nobody's saying nothing. Boss man just tell people to sign the papers. Then he send me to meet this boy downtown and collect this envelope.
You need to tell somebody. You need to become a whistleblower.
You know I's a real man, but I never blow no whistle. I be drunk all my life and drunk, you know.
No way. A whistleblower is someone who tells people what they see when they see something wrong happening at work.
But I ain't no whistleblower and I ain't no snitch. I still white there, you know.
Boy, ain't nobody gonna know it's you. All you gotta do is call Crime Stoppers, or you could text them from inside the Crack Crime Bahamas app. They don't ask about you, and your call goes straight through to Miami, so nobody know who you is. And if you text, your message get mixed up like Kong Salad.
Call 328-8477 from Nassau or 242-300-8477 from the Family Islands.
And welcome back to Guardian Radio AM. We're here with Dr. Theen Campbell, who's the Dean of Students at Deep Science Ventures. And he is here basically telling us a concept on how Bahamians could be empowered. And before we took the break, I was asking him, at the end of 3 years, what do I receive at the end of 3 years? And I also want to know, again, who is your target audience here? Mm-hmm. Give me an example of who can benefit.
Who needs to reach out?
Who needs to reach out?
And say, hey, I'm interested in this course. I have an idea, right? I've been interested in doing this type of work. I've been looking for a think tank.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking for a working
Yes,
group.
that.
Yeah.
So that first question, so at the end of the venture science doctorate, at the end of 3 years, you have a PhD. And you have a PhD in a specific, extremely employable skill set. So our training covers leadership, financing and fundraising, road mapping innovation. So how do you actually set out where you need to go step by step to get your idea to technology to a company? And a whole host of other skills that, you know, even if the company that you're building, you know, doesn't work out or you have to pivot it, that skill set that you have will make you extremely employable in other governments and companies around the world. So at the end of this, you have that PhD, you got a really exciting skill set, you have a network, which is worth talking about. So over the 3 years, you're not just learning from Deep Science Ventures. We're sending you to learn from other investors in our network policymakers and other government agencies. It's part of why we're working with the Climate Change and Environmental Affairs Agency, C2O, right, at the office of the PM. So you get the PhD, the skill set, this broad network of business leaders that you're going to meet, people in government, people in the investment community, people in academia. So you would have worked in probably 2 or 3 different universities and different labs around the world. You'll know the professors, the postdocs, the other PhDs. That network is going to be strong, and you're going to need it because in these serious tech spaces, we call it deep tech, where you need a PhD to play, you don't just invent something and overnight it's popular. You need a collective around you who are going with you to help you to get through the regulatory environment and all the different stages. And so you have that, and you have investment, and you have a co-founding team to use that investment to grow your company.
And I imagine that what you bring into the program is going to inform what you get out of it at the end of the day. Again, you mentioned C2O, and I just want to say, I hope you guys have gotten, you got the joke, right? Like you got the pun.
Right.
C2O.
I think that was deliberate.
Right? It's the Office of the Prime Minister's Climate Change and Environmental Advisory Unit. So if you're going into the program with ideas that are centered around solutions for environmental issues and sustainability issues, then you're going to come out of this program having developed a network that can drive you to work, not necessarily in the government, but with the government on major projects, right? So the ideas that you come in with will inform what you leave with, the types of partnerships that you form, the types of networks that you form, and that platform, right? The platform that drives you to the next point in your life or
and
your
that's
career.
Industrial policy, and it's why this is so exciting for the Bahamas, because other parts of the world, we look out and we admire Silicon Valley and other places, but they're set up. They can't just move now and do big things in agriculture and climate. We have a blank canvas in the Bahamas where we could really be talking about the Bahamas being a Silicon Valley for the Caribbean. And we would need to work with our governments to really build that out. But we could be, it could be a ocean tech hub in Eleuthera. It could be a carbon capture tech hub on Grand Bahama, right? We could spread this out, and strategically we could have agri-tech hub on Andros, Cat Island. This could really, and all of these could work together, map together to deliver on these projects that the world is funding, but the Bahamas is not yet getting their name in the hat.
Or better than just getting your name in the hat, the Bahamas is creating new models, right, beyond what's already been established.
I see we having a phone call, but keep on dropping. Call. I seen you, but every time I try to connect to you, the call tends to drop. But locally, who should be interested in your program?
Yeah, we want to hear from BAMSI, from the Cardi office, people who are working on these things. I hear they've got Blue Action Lab in Freeport now. The Island School is doing big things on Eleuthera. We want to hear from people in Exuma and Bimini and all who are resilient, who see the need for this and want to get involved and want their idea to contribute to what the Bahamas is doing on the global stage.
Okay. But you mentioned a PhD. What about these people who are just working in the field? Can they participate in this?
For sure, yeah. And so you're, during this PhD, interacting with all these people who know the real industry, who know what's really happening on the ground. So they're a part of what you're doing, and you might actually be creating an advisory position for some of them or a job for some of them when your company is built.
Okay. Let me see if I can get this call now. Right? Caller, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Newry, and good morning to your guests.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, he gave some great ideas as it relates to COB and the science, right? But I just have some quick questions and concerns. Of course, one would be that, has anyone in your group conceived, given the fact that carbon is isotopic, right? And the difference between anthropogenic and carboniferous carbon, which God originally had here for us to breed out, and plants likewise. So we know the difference. I don't know if you know the difference between anthropogenic carbon carboniferous carbon as it relates to the configuration of the structure of the isotopes, 12, 13, and 14. So has there any experiment done to see plants' ability, how they react to the anthropogenic carbon versus the original carbon that God gave us? And also, as it relates to COB, the University of Bahamas, what is your opinion on the level of cell culture technology as far as like true culture isolation? You know what I mean? Because I was confounded during the pandemic, and also the fact that they're talking about implementing medical marijuana without the science, and we don't have any gas chromatograph, mass spectrometer, etc., or any. I don't know if they use fluorescent dye technology, but just give me a real. Because I feel the country is way behind as far as innovations compared to the States, because we always have to send away for sophisticated blood tests. So me personally, just being a dropout from college, I don't put trust in these people as far as their ability to recognize and isolate and give true molecular events on things. There's nothing being done. We never heard any reports. There's no website for me to go on and say I could see what is in the water as far as being found in people, the link and between association and cause with cancer and all other disease and likes, because they're having a field day with ignorance here with us. That's what I'm saying. So I have a lot of ideas, but what I'm saying is I don't see the data integrity or nothing here in this country as it relates to what you're saying.
For sure.
As with climate change, right? You see the variables in calculating carbon emissions. So then, has anyone in your group said that we will determine the difference, since they want to tax carbon, which is foolishness to me? How could they tell me the difference between anthropogenic and carboniferous, given that I've just said it? But is there a machine to do that? And how would they do that? So I see it as just a farce. Listen, please, man. I'd like to have a number for you to conversate too. Bless up.
So this is great. So you asked a lot of really technical questions. I could tell you that radioactive carbon isotopes are quite rare in terms of parts per million. But I think the broader thing in your question is we need to do the research so that we're armed to do these projects properly. And to your point about if we've done that research, Deep Science Ventures has teams of PhD scientists who look into a space before we build a company there. And then we hire typically in our existing programs, not the PhD, people who already have their own PhD. In the venture science doctorate, obviously, we're giving them that and training people into that space, so you don't need that. So there's a lot of research that goes into these spaces. And I'll just point out Parallel Carbon as one of the companies that we've built. Mission Zero is another direct air carbon capture company where you can read about them in the Wall Street Journal, where they've had to do their research. But the question is a great one, because we need to do that fundamental innovation road mapping, not just science to say one fact about a type of carbon or another, but the road mapping to say, how will that get into the real world, into markets, right? And that is what year one of the Venture Science Doctorate is really about. You have a year to do the kind of deep research that you're talking about that we need, and then to build some of the technologies that you say we need.
Okay, we have another caller there. Let's try to squeeze that in. And then I need to get how to get in contact with you. So, because a lot of people want to engage, to hash it out.
I'll just say that last caller should maybe apply, go type Venture Science Doctorate in, and we'll give him the chance to show some of his thinking in the application process. But we love
52, see the system. You ask for it. If you build it, they'll come. But if you ask for it, it'll be built, 52.
Yeah. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Caller going once. Caller going twice. Nope. Okay. Go ahead. Hello? No? Just making sure I drop. Go ahead, Dr. Campbell. How do we get in contact with you?
Yeah, I think obviously our website is deepscienceventures.com. You can also look for the application page for the Venture Science Doctorate. Just type Venture Science Doctorate in online and you'll find it. And you can reach out to us through either of those pages.
Dr. Campbell, so I got a couple of questions. One from the text line, right? I've created this idea and a solution. With Deep Science Ventures and the doctorate now, we're creating a company to commercialize this solution. Who owns the patent for the solution? or the parts, various
Yeah,
parts of the
okay.
solution. And then just in the last minutes, I wanted to talk, but didn't want to weigh down the conversation. Ethics on the cutting edge. Just because we can do a thing doesn't necessarily mean we should do a thing. And how do you at Deep Science Ventures draw that line, make
Okay.
that determination? How do you make the decision that this is where we stop?
Yeah, so I think, I've said before, some of the great Bahamians that we have in this space. We have Professor William Gustav, who I mentioned, as well Dr. Salima Harbour, who's in Eleuthera with the One Eleuther Foundation doing things in agriculture. We don't want to dispossess people of their intellectual property. So we want the founder. The founder will own the IP. And Deep Science Ventures is incentivized because we invest. So we actually back the company, and we're on your cap table. We're some of the people who go with you for the long haul as your company grows. And then the ethics of which spaces we should build in. This is a great question. I know one of the big areas that we haven't been talking about is mental health, where we are thinking about, programs that could be done there. We've also got a lot of work in cancer, where we have built companies like Neob, who actually, they train bacteria to go and hunt the tumor down in your body. And so there's ethical questions that come into play there when you're thinking about the patient and their quality of life, and should we innovate here and there. I would just refer back to the research that we do before we put a challenge out. We've looked at all of these spaces because we can't afford to take a risk where we do something unethical. And equally, you have over a year in our program to explore lots of different spaces and find one that's going to work for you, for the Bahamas, the Caribbean, and the world.
Okay. Let's see if I can squeeze in one more call. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me? Gotta make it quick, though, caller. Go ahead, caller. Can you hear me?
Godly days is talking away so long with you and your guests and Aaron Korean Newry.
Go ahead.
I have a question for the gentleman. Knowing that you're going to be dealing with carbon, what portion of the seabed, or how much of the seabed would you be occupying to work with?
Okay, thank you very much.
Say it again?
Yeah, so we haven't
I
yet.
didn't hear you.
He answering now.
So we haven't.
Can't hear you.
Okay, Berman, let's see if I can let him answer right now.
The size of the area that we might work with in the seabed is not predetermined, and so again, a lot of this work comes out of work that is done by the candidate in the program to think about where are we going to build our demonstration facilities and how much CO2 we're going to capture. So that's not already predetermined. We really want to work with people like yourselves who are asking great questions to spec out what the best thing to do next would be. So, please do check out Venture Science Doctorate online and apply and come think with us about these questions, because we do want to do it in an ethical way and a way that's sensitive to our coral reefs as well here in the Bahamas.
Absolutely. I just want to throw out there for people who are thinking, like, who should come to this program. Have you ever wondered why there's 1 million conch shells in the country and what we could do with it? Then you need to be a part of this program.
So if I have a conch shell idea,
yes,
I can bring that to you and you hash it out.
Let's talk about it. In our system, you'll be able to prove what is, from first principles, the best way to solve the challenge. CO2, it could be food security and agriculture. So I'm really excited to have been able to share about it. And I do want to say, if y'all are listening, please get the information out to your nephew, your family, your friends. Let people know that this opportunity is out here for the Bahamas. And I do want to say a big thanks to OPM, so Mrs. Rochelle Newbold, Mrs. Cartwright, Mrs. Kemp, and my family and friends who have been a part of this.
Throw out your contact information one more time, Dr. Campbell.
Yeah, come to us at deepscienceventures.com. There's an info page website there where the message will get passed to me.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you coming back. This is Dr. Thane Campbell, Bahamian, who's based inside the United Kingdom. He's the Dean at
Deep Science Ventures College.
Yes, and he gives really give the information on how to get in contact with him. This has been Guiding Radio with AM with CA Newry. Of course, Aaron Green was with me as we went down this pathway.
Yes, sir.
I'm excited at the possibilities.
Venture science doctorate.
Yes.
Changing the Bahamas, changing the world.
And anybody with new ideas and logical thinking can apply. Right? Have a wonderful day.